Geneva, Switzerland, the 1st of July, 2025. A 13-year-old boy stares intently at his computer screen while the world sleeps. Max Logan has just detected something that will shake the foundations of everything we believe we know about the universe. On his monitor flashes an astronomical alert. Interstellar object confirmed. Designation 3IATLAS. But Max is not smiling. His hands tremble because he predicted this exactly 6 months earlier. He calculated that something would come, and now it is here. He murmurs to himself as his eyes reflect numbers and graphs. This is not a coincidence. They opened the door. Max is not an ordinary child. At 8 years old, he solved equations that confounded university physicists. At 10, he published a paper on gravitational anomalies that was ignored because it was deemed impossible for a child to produce. At 12, he created a mathematical model linking particle collisions at Cern to disturbances in interstellar space. No one took him seriously, until now. 3IATLAS is not behaving as it should. It is massive, 1,000 times larger than previous interstellar objects, and it is doing something strange. It expels jets of water vapor like an uncontrolled cosmic geyser. Scientists are perplexed. Max is terrified because in his calculations this behavior corresponds exactly to what would happen if an object were pulled through a gravitational anomaly, a wormhole, a portal. Max calls his mother from the room transformed into an improvised laboratory. "Mom, I need you to listen to me. Something terrible is going to happen." Elena, a literature professor who raised her prodigy son alone, enters with a cup of tea. She has seen Max obsessed before, but never like this. Never with this level of urgency in his voice. Max continues without detaching his eyes from the screen. Cern accelerated particles to levels never achieved before in April, exactly 3 months before this object appeared. This is not a coincidence, Mom. The numbers do not lie. In the basement on the border between Switzerland and France, 27 kilometers from where Max is speaking, the Large Hadron Collider lies silent. This machine with a circumference of 27 kilometers accelerates protons almost to the speed of light, recreating the conditions of the Big Bang. Official purpose: understanding the origin of the universe. But Max believes they did something more, something unexpected, something irreversible. Max turns to his mother and says, "Adults are conditioned not to see the evidence. Institutions teach them to reject the improbable, but I do not yet have this filter and I see the pattern clearly." Elena looks at her son. In his eyes is something she has not seen before. Not fear, absolute certainty. And that scares her more than any theory about dimensional portals. She asks softly, "What pattern, Max?" Max opens 3 windows on his computer. Oumuamua in 2017, Borisov in 2019, now Atlas in 2025. Each time larger, each time stranger. And look at this. His fingers fly across the keyboard. Each appearance coincides with an energy peak in Cern collisions. This is not a coincidence, it is cause and effect. Outside, the first lights of dawn paint the Geneva sky. Max has not slept for 30 hours, but this is only the beginning, because what Max will discover in the coming days will not only change his life, it could change the destiny of all humanity. Max says resolutely, "I need to speak with someone at Cern before it is too late, before something else passes through this portal." 3 days later, Max Logan walks the corridors of Cern with a visitor badge hanging from his neck. He obtained this meeting through a former physics professor who knew his deceased father. But the looks of the passing scientists say it all. A child has no business here. Max clutches his laptop to his chest. In it are 6 months of calculations that no one wants to see. The receptionist tells him without really looking that Dr. Rousseau will receive him in 5 minutes. Max nods. Dr. Philippe Rousseau is the head of collision security at Cern. If anyone can understand what Max has discovered, it is he. The waiting room has windows overlooking the underground complex. Max observes the tunnels where protons travel at speeds defying human understanding. Every second, thousands of billions of collisions. Each collision a small recreation of the birth of the universe. Max thinks, and if one of these collisions did something we cannot undo? The door opens. Dr. Rousseau is a 60-year-old man with a gray beard and tired eyes. He says with a pronounced French accent, "Max Logan, I have been told you have something important to show me. You have 10 minutes. 10 minutes. Max would need 10 hours to explain everything, but he does not have that luxury. He opens the laptop and gets straight to the point. Doctor, 3IATLAS did not arrive here by chance, it was pulled. Rousseau sits more out of courtesy than interest. Pulled. By what exactly? Max responds with surgical precision, through a gravitational anomaly created in the collision of the 15th of April at 14:32 Central European Time. That collision reached 14 TeV, the highest level ever recorded. My calculations suggest that at that moment for 7 seconds a microdimensional fissure was created. Rousseau sighs. He has heard these theories before. Internet conspiracies. Unfounded fears. Max, I understand your concern, but the collisions we perform are perfectly safe. We have done millions. If there were a risk, Max interrupts, his voice rising. 3 interstellar objects in 8 years, Doctor. Before 2017 we detected none, 0 in the entire history of astronomy. And now 3, all after Cern reached unprecedented energies. Max turns the laptop. On the screen a graph overlaying Cern energy peaks with interstellar object appearance dates. The correlation is troubling, too perfect to be coincidence. Max explains, Oumuamua appeared 6 months after 13 TeV. Borisov 5 months after 13.5 TeV and Atlas exactly 3 months after 14.6 TeV. The pattern is clear. The higher the energy, the shorter the arrival time, the larger the object. Rousseau looks at the graph. For the first time his expression changes. This is interesting, but correlation does not imply causation, Max. It could be Max completes, coincidence 3 times in a row. The statistical probabilities for that are 1 in 847 million. I did the calculations, Doctor. They are all here. The scientist leans back in his chair. He looks at the child before him. Something in his eyes. Something that reminds him why he dedicated himself to physics 40 years ago. The ability to see what others do not. Rousseau says slowly, let us assume you are right. Let us assume we created some kind of disturbance. What do you suggest we do? Max takes a deep breath. This is the part that terrifies him. I need you to stop the collisions immediately because if my model is correct, each new collision widens this fissure and what passes through it could be far worse than space rocks. Rousseau asks, worse how? Max hesitates. The next part sounds like science fiction even to him, but the numbers do not lie. Atlas expels matter in a way that defies our understanding of comet physics, as if it were reacting to something, as if it brought something else with it. Rousseau stands. Max, stopping the collider would cost millions. It would delay critical research. I cannot do that based on one Max's theory. He finishes standing as well, a child's. I know, that is why no one listens to me. But when they discover I was right, it will be too late. The doctor escorts Max outside. Send me all your complete data, I will examine it. That is all I can promise. Max exits into the Geneva chill. He knows Rousseau will do nothing. Adults never do until the disaster has already occurred. He looks at the sky. Somewhere up there, millions of kilometers away, 3IATLAS approaches and brings with it answers Max fears to discover. His phone vibrates. It is an email from an amateur astronomer in Chile. The object says, anomaly in Atlas, impossible data. Max opens the message. His hands begin to tremble again because what he sees confirms his worst nightmare. Something is awakening and they brought it here. Max opens the attached file in the Chilean astronomer's email. His eyes widen. On the screen a spectrogram of 3IATLAS taken from the Los Silla Observatory, but there is something in the data that should not be there. A regular, pulsating, artificial frequency. Max murmurs, this cannot be. He zooms in on the image. The signal repeats every 41.7 seconds. No natural process in the universe produces such precise patterns. It is pure mathematics. It is intentional. Elena enters the room with breakfast that Max forgot to eat. What have you found now? Max responds, Mom, Atlas is not just a rock, it is transmitting something. Max plays the converted audio of the signal. A deep, almost subliminal pulse fills the room. Elena feels a chill down her spine. There is something primordial in this sound, something that speaks directly to the reptilian brain. Max begins typing frantically. If I convert this frequency to binary numbers, His fingers fly across the keyboard, numbers cascade, suddenly he stops and pales. No, no, no. Elena asks, "What is it, Max?" The child turns the screen toward his mother. On it a sequence of numbers, 14.6, 27.0, 46.5, 175.0. Max explains, "These are coordinates, Mom. Latitude and longitude and exact depth." Elena asks, "Coordinates of what?" Max swallows hard, Cern with centimeter precision. Atlas knows exactly where it came from and is responding. At that moment, 2,847 kilometers away, in the Cern control center, alarms begin to sound. Dr. Rousseau runs to the monitoring room. On the screen, something impossible is happening. Particle detectors capture background radiation that should not exist. An energy signature matching no known element. Rousseau asks, "Where is this coming from?" A technician checks the data. "Not from here, doctor. It is coming from above, from space." She looks confused. It is as if something is responding to our collisions. Rousseau recalls Max's words. "Connect me with the Logan child now." 30 minutes later, Max receives the call he was waiting for and dreading. Rousseau says without preamble, "I need you to come immediately and bring all your data, all of it." When Max arrives at Cern, the atmosphere has completely changed. Scientists run back and forth. Screens show erroneous graphs. In the center, Rousseau waits with a grave expression. "We detected the signal from Atlas. And not only that, it is synchronized with our collider." Another scientist continues, "Every time we activate a collision, the signal from Atlas intensifies. It is as if it were feeding on our energy." Max feels the ground slip from under his feet. "It is not feeding, doctor. It is communicating. Atlas is a beacon, and you activated it when you opened this portal." Rousseau asks, though he fears the answer, "A beacon? For what?" Max walks to the main screen. "For what is on the other side? To tell them where we are. To tell them the door is open." A heavy silence fills the room. Then all screens flicker simultaneously, systems restart themselves, and when they come back there is a new message on the detectors. It is not random noise, not interference, it is a complex mathematical pattern, a language. Rousseau asks, "Can anyone decode this?" Max is already working on it. His fingers dance on the laptop, equations, conversions, algorithms. 5 minutes of absolute silence. Then Max stops. His face loses all color. "I managed to translate part of the message. It is a numerical sequence." "Countdown." Rousseau asks, "Countdown? To what?" Max turns the screen. On it numbers systematically decrease. When they reach 0, a date appears. The 15th of July, 2025. 12 days remain. Max says with a trembling voice, "Until something arrives or something awakens, I am not sure which is worse." Cern conference room, the 3rd of July, 2025, 22 hours 47 minutes. 14 scientists from 6 different countries surround a table. Max Logan is the only minor in the room and probably the only one who fully understands what is happening. Rousseau begins, "Ladies and gentlemen, in the last 48 hours we have detected anomalies that defy our current understanding of physics. The interstellar object 3IATLAS not only transmits signals coordinated with our collisions, but seems to alter spacetime around itself in ways that should not be possible." On the main screen, data from the James Webb Space Telescope appear. Atlas has grown. In 3 days it increased its mass by 7%. No comet does that. No known natural object does that. Rousseau proposes, "I suggest we stop all collider operations until we understand what is happening." The room explodes in protests. Scientists stand, shout, gesture. They are in the middle of experiments costing millions. They have deadlines, commitments to governments. They cannot simply stop for a speculative theory. Max shouts standing, "It is not speculative." Everyone looks at him, a child interrupting doctors and Nobel laureates. Max continues, "Every collision you perform widens the dimensional fissure. Atlas is not growing, it is receiving matter from the other side. You are feeding something you do not understand." A British scientist, Dr. Haymond, laughs contemptuously. "Dimensional fissures, portals. Sounds like a Hollywood movie." This child is frightened by his own imagination. Max walks toward Haymond. Doctor, you published a paper in 2019 on dark matter. You proposed it could exist in parallel dimensions. Have you changed your mind, or is it simply inconvenient that your theory is probably correct? Haymond blushes. Rousseau intervenes. Max is right. We ourselves have theorized for years about extra dimensions. String theory requires at least 10 dimensions. What if we accidentally touched one of them? A German scientist argues, the probabilities are infinitesimal. We have performed millions of collisions. If something like this were possible, it would have happened already. Max says quietly, it has happened already. He projects his laptop onto the main screen. The 15th of April 1432-17. Collision 429,384. It reached 14.6 TeV for 2.7 microseconds longer than normal. It was an anomaly, an error that your system recorded but dismissed as statistical noise, except it was not. Max zooms in on the data of that specific collision. There is a strange pattern, an energy signature matching no known particle. Max points, here for 0.03 seconds, something that should not exist in our universe existed and left a trace. The room falls silent. Scientists look at the data, they cannot refute it. Rousseau asks finally, what do you suggest we do? Max responds, we must close the portal before the countdown reaches 0, but I do not know how, because we do not really know what we opened. At that moment, all lights flicker in the building, computers restart, and when they come back there is a new message from Atlas. This time not numbers, it is an image, an impossible and familiar geometric structure. A French astrophysicist murmurs, my God, it is the collider. It is an exact map of our underground tunnel, but viewed from above, from space, as if Atlas scanned the entire Earth. Max corrects, feeling ice in his veins. No, it is not a scan, it is an instruction. It tells us exactly where to strike to fully open the portal. Geneva, the 6th of July, 2025. Max has not slept for 4 days. His room is now an improvised operation center with screens, cables and graphs covering every wall. Elena observes how her son consumes himself in the obsession to save the world, a world that still sees him as a frightened child. Elena pleads, Max, you must rest. The scientists at Cern are working on it. It is no longer just your responsibility. Max responds without detaching his eyes from the monitors. They do not understand, Mom. They continue thinking in terms of conventional physics, but this is not conventional, it is contact. Max has analyzed every second of Atlas transmissions and discovered something. The countdown is not just time, it is temporal coordinates, specific moments in the past and future where the barrier between dimensions is thinner. Max murmurs, the 15th of July is not random. It is the anniversary of the Trinity test, the first nuclear explosion in 1945, exactly 80 years, as if something has been observing since then. His phone rings. It is Rousseau. Max, you need to come. We have pressure from governments. They want to keep the collider operational. They say we cannot stop scientific progress for unproven theories. Max explodes. Unproven theories. They have an object the size of a mountain transmitting messages coordinated with their experiments. Rousseau responds, I know, but it is not enough for them. They need definitive proof. They need tangible consequences. Max closes his eyes. They will have them when it is too late. That night Max does something he has never done. He hacks the Cern communication system and sends a message to all astronomical observatories in the world. A simple message, point your telescopes at Atlas. Document everything. On the 15th of July humanity will need evidence for what is coming. In a few hours hundreds of telescopes focus on the interstellar object and begin to see what Max already knew. Atlas is not alone. Small gravitational anomalies around it, as if space itself were tearing. An astronomer from Australia detects the first. I have a strange reading, like a second object, but it does not reflect light, does not emit radiation. I can see it only by how it distorts the stars behind it. Then one from India. Confirm, several objects or one very large with multiple sections. And finally from Hawaii, the observation that changes everything. They are not objects, it is an intelligent artificial structure and it is assembling. Max receives these transmissions in real time. His heart beats so hard he can hear it in his ears. He calls Rousseau. "Doctor, do you see this?" Rousseau responds with a tense voice. "Yes, we are in an emergency session with UN representatives. Max, it has escalated beyond us. Military forces from 5 countries are on alert." Max asks, "Alerted for what? Will they shoot at something from another dimension?" Rousseau responds, "I do not know, Max, but the world is afraid, and when the world is afraid it does stupid things." Max looks out the window at the night sky of Geneva. Somewhere up there something is awakening, something his species accidentally summoned, and now they have 9 days to decide. Will they close the door and risk offending a superior intelligence, or leave it open and face whatever passes through it? Max says suddenly, "There is a third option that no one is considering." Rousseau asks, "What?" Max takes a deep breath. "What if we are not being invaded? What if we are being tested? Atlas could be a test to see if we are intelligent enough to close what we opened, to see if we deserve to survive." Rousseau falls silent. Then he says something Max will never forget. "If that is the case, Max, then I hope a 13-year-old boy is enough to save our entire species, because adults clearly cannot." Cern Operations Center, the 9th of July, 2025. The room is full of military personnel, politicians, and scientists. Max is the youngest person by 50 years, but now everyone listens because Atlas has just done something no one can ignore. On the main screens, images from the James Webb Telescope show the impossible. The structure around Atlas has fully materialized. It is not a ship, not an artifact, it is pure geometry. A perfect dodecahedron 47 kilometers in diameter, suspended in the void, defying every known physical law. Max explains to the stunned audience, "It is made of dark matter, or more precisely matter from another dimension that our instruments can detect only through gravitational effect, but now it interacts with our spacetime. It is solidifying." An American general interrupts. "It is a threat." Max admits, "I do not know, but it has done nothing hostile. It is just there waiting." A UN representative asks, "Waiting for what?" Max projects new data. The countdown continues, 6 days until the 15th of July, but now we have more information. "I analyzed the Atlas transmissions and believe I decoded part of the message. It is not a threat, it is an invitation." Rousseau asks, "Invitation to what?" Max responds, "To properly close the portal, to demonstrate that we understand what we did. Atlas waits for us to perform a specific collision with exact parameters, one that will neutralize the dimensional fissure." The general stiffens. "And if it is a trap? And if this collision fully opens the portal?" Max acknowledges, "It is possible, but consider this. If they wanted to invade us, why wait? They already have a structure the size of a city floating in our solar system. If their intentions were hostile, they would act already." A Chinese scientist, Dr. Wei, speaks for the first time. "I studied the transmission patterns. Max is right. There is mathematical elegance in the messages. It is not war communication, it is master communication, as if they were teaching us." Haymond asks still skeptically, "Teaching us what?" Max responds, "Responsibility. We opened a door to another dimension without understanding the consequences. They detected it, and instead of destroying us, they give us a chance to fix it ourselves." The general murmurs, "Or they are preparing us for something worse." At that moment all screens go out. The entire building plunges into darkness. Emergency generators start, but computers do not respond, except one, Max's laptop. On his screen a new message appears, but this time not numbers or graphs. It is words in several languages, Spanish, English, Chinese, Arabic, Hindi, all appearing simultaneously. The message says, "You understand well. Final test, 15th of July 03:14:15 Coordinated Universal Time. Attached coordinates. An opportunity. Choose wisely." Max translates the coordinates. They are the exact coordinates of the collider tunnel, and the time 3:14:15 are the first 3 digits of pi. It is not a coincidence, it is a signal. Whoever is on the other side understands mathematics, understands universal symbols. Max explains, "They demand we perform a collision at that exact moment with parameters they are still sending. If we do it correctly, we close the portal. If wrong or not at all." Max does not finish the sentence. There is no need. Everyone in the room understands what is at stake. The general stands. This requires presidential authorization. From several presidents. We cannot make this decision here. Russo responds, we have 6 days. Bureaucrats will take months to decide. Max says simply, then we will have to do it without permission. You have access to the collider. I have the calculations. If we wait for official approvals, it will be too late. The general warns, you're talking about defying direct orders from world governments? It is treason. Max looks him straight in the eyes. It is not treason. It is survival. The 11th of July, 2025. 4 days remain. Max does not leave the Cern facilities. He has transformed a conference room into his operations base. Screens show the parameters that Atlas continues to transmit, and they are terrifyingly complex. Max explains to a small group of scientists who have secretly decided to help him. It is not a standard collision. It requires synchronization of 3 particle beams simultaneously. Our collider can handle only 2. Haymond, who unexpectedly joined Max's team after verifying his calculations, says, then it is impossible. We cannot do what they demand. Max admits, not with the current configuration, but I have worked on a modification. If we redistribute energy and use the superconducting magnets in a way they were not designed for, Rousseau interrupts, we could destroy the collider or worse. Max responds, or we could save the world. Those are our options. Dr. Wei approaches the diagrams drawn by Max. It is brilliant, risky, possibly suicidal, but brilliant. Using harmonic resonance to create a virtual third beam, theoretically it could work. Haymond asks, theoretically, we are playing with forces that created the universe. We need more than theory. Max responds frustrated, we do not have time for more. Atlas has started moving. It is approaching, and when it reaches Mars' orbit we will not be able to stop what comes after. On the screen's real-time data show that Atlas is accelerating. It should not be able to do that. No visible propulsion, but it moves as if space itself were bending to allow its passage. Wei observes in amazement. It manipulates gravity, as predicted by Einstein-Rosen equations. It is a bridge that shortens as it approaches. Max nods, and every hour that passes more matter crosses from the other side. Atlas grows, it feeds. When it reaches Earth on the 15th of July, it will have enough mass to permanently alter our gravitational field. A young technician asks, what does that mean in practical terms? Max responds with a somber voice, it means tides will change, satellites will fall from orbit. Earthquakes will increase, and eventually the moon could be ejected from orbit, all because of a fissure we accidentally created. A heavy silence fills the room. Then Rousseau speaks, I have contacts in the Swiss government. I can obtain 48 hours of exclusive access to the collider. But after that, the military takes control. They want to use nuclear missiles against Atlas? Wei warns, that would be catastrophic. They do not understand what we are facing. You cannot destroy something from dimensional matter with 3-dimensional weapons. Rousseau responds, I know, that is why we must act first. Max, how much time do you need to prepare the collision? Max looks at his calculations. Equations filling 30 screens, variables changing every second. If we work without stopping, I can have the final parameters in 36 hours, but programming the collider will take another 8. We are cutting it very close. Haymond says, surprising everyone, then we start now. I spent 40 years in physics because I want to understand the universe. I will not let fear stop me from doing what is right. Max smiles for the first time in days. All right, but I need everyone to understand something. If this goes wrong, there will be no second chance. Either we close the portal correctly, or we open it fully. No middle ground. Wei responds, we understand the risks. What is the first step? Max opens a new file with collider diagrams with modifications marked in red. We must reconfigure 847 superconducting magnets. Each must be calibrated with nanometer precision. One error and Rousseau completes, and the explosion would be equivalent to 1,000 Hiroshima bombs. I know. I read your risk analysis. Max says quietly, but you also read the alternative. If we do nothing, Atlas will not stop, and what comes after Atlas will be worse, because now they know where we are and they know we are advanced enough to open portals, but they need to know if we are wise enough to close them. The team works in shifts over the next 36 hours. Max sleeps in 20-minute intervals. When he closes his eyes, he dreams of equations, dimensions folding onto themselves, errors erasing existence itself. The 13th of July, 18 hours 11 minutes. The parameters are ready. The collider modification is complete. Now only the most difficult part, convincing the world to let them try to save humanity. The 14th of July, 2025, 22 hours 47 minutes, 16 hours before the collision. Max is alone in the collider control center. Outside military personnel surround the complex. Inside, his allies sleep in improvised rooms. They need to be rested for tomorrow. Max cannot sleep. His phone vibrates. It is his mother. Max. I saw the news. They say they are evacuating Geneva. Is it true? Max responds, yes, Mom, it is a precaution. If tomorrow something goes wrong, Elena interrupts. Son, come home, please. You are a child, you should not carry this. Max feels tears in his eyes. I am the only one who can do this, Mom. Adults have too much fear to be wrong. I have fear only of not trying. Elena cries on the other end of the line. Your father would be proud. He was like that too, always believing he could change the world. Max asks, did Dad work in particle physics? I never knew Dad. He died when I was 2. Elena responds, he worked here at Cern 13 years ago. He was on the team that made the first Higgs boson discovery, but there was an accident, a radiation leak. The doctors said it was instantaneous. Max feels as if he has been hit. Why did you never tell me? Elena explains, because I did not want you to live in his shadow. I wanted you to find your own path. But I suppose physics is in your blood. Max looks around the corridors his father walked, the same instruments his father operated. Mom, if tomorrow something goes wrong. Elena interrupts, do not say that. Max insists, I have to say it. If something goes wrong, I want you to know that I tried, that I gave everything and that I am not afraid. Elena responds, I am afraid, Max. I am mortally afraid of losing you. Promise me you will not lose me. I promise we will see each other tomorrow. Max hangs up before his voice completely breaks. At midnight, Russo finds Max in the control room. You cannot sleep either, HM? Max responds, I am reviewing the calculations for the 10th time, looking for errors, looking for something I might have missed. Russo sits next to the child. Max, you are the most brilliant mind I have known. If there is an error, it is not because you did not try. Max responds, that does not console me, because an error means we all die. Russo says, you know? I knew your father. He was my PhD student. He too was obsessive, he too pushed to the limit, and he too believed he could save the world. Max asks, did he succeed? Russo responds, he gave us the Higgs boson. He gave us proof that mass exists because of a field permeating the entire universe. He changed physics forever, but he paid the highest price. Max turns to Russo, what really happened? Mom says it was an accident, but here no one talks about him. Russo sighs deeply. Your father detected something during a collision in 2012, an anomaly, something that should not exist. Similar to what we are facing now. He wanted to investigate further, but the committee decided it was too risky. Your father disagreed. He entered the collider tunnel without authorization, and when they activated an emergency collision, Max completes feeling an enormous weight on his chest. He did not finish evacuating in time. Russo continues, he died doing what he loved, pursuing truths. And now his son is about to finish what he started. Max looks at the screens where Atlas shines in the night sky, visible now to the naked eye from Earth. A new star or a warning? Do you think Dad knew something like this was possible? Russo responds, I think your father understood that the true frontier of science is not discovering what we can do, but deciding what we should do. Max nods. Then he looks at the night sky visible through the building windows. The stars shine quietly, but Max knows that behind this quiet there is an active, conscious universe, observing. Max asks, will they return? Russo responds, without a doubt. The question is when and will we be ready when they return? Max smiles. Then I had better get to work because I have a feeling the next test will be much harder. 6 months later, Max publishes an article revolutionizing theoretical physics titled Protocols for Responsible Dimensional Contact. It becomes required reading in all universities worldwide. Governments establish the council proposed by Max. Humanity, for the first time in its history, decides to advance with caution, and in the depths of space something observes satisfied, patient, waiting for the day when this young species will be truly ready to join the larger cosmic conversation. Max Logan, the child who saved the world, now has a new mission: to prepare humanity for the day when portals will not open accidentally, but by invitation. And when that day comes, to ensure that his species is ready not only to survive, but to thrive in a larger, stranger, and more wonderful universe than anyone imagined. Because the true story was not closing a portal, it was learning that there are doors that should open only when you are ready to cross to the other side. And Max Logan will dedicate his life to ensuring that when humanity crosses those doors, it does so with wisdom, courage, and responsibility. The genius child once ignored is now the most important voice of his generation, and his message is simple but profound: knowledge without wisdom is dangerous, but wisdom without courage is useless. We need both, and we need young minds ready to see what adults can no longer, because the universe is full of wonders and dangers, and only those who respect both deserve to explore its mysteries. This is the story of how a 13-year-old boy saved the world, not with weapons, not with politics, but with mathematics, courage, and the willingness to see truths that others feared to acknowledge. And it is only the first story, because Max Logan is just beginning and the universe awaits.